The Cabin During the Storm, a true story. Submission: I've never really been one to believe in ghosts, demons, or any of that stuff. But what happened to me back in 2019, on a rainy weekend in the mountains, changed that completely. It's taken me years to even be able to tell the story without my stomach tightening. Even now, when I think about that night, I can hear the rain tapping against the windows. And I swear, sometimes I still hear that sound again in the distance. I live in Johannesburg, but that weekend, I had driven up to a small area near Dullstrom in Mpumalanga. A friend of mine, Josh, owned a small wooden cabin there that his uncle had built years ago, a quiet spot surrounded by forest and rolling hills. It wasn't fancy, but it had a fireplace, a generator, and a roof that, according to him, could survive the apocalypse. Josh had offered it to me for the weekend after I'd had a rough breakup. He said the solitude and the mountain air would clear my head. At first, it sounded perfect. I packed a few clothes, my camera, and some food. Drive there was peaceful, winding roads, mist hanging over the pine trees, and that sharp, cold smell of rain in the distance. By the time I arrived, the sky was already gray, and thunder was rolling faintly through the hills. The cabin sat about 2 kilometers down a muddy dirt road. It was isolated, no neighbors, no cell phone signal, just trees and silence. Inside, it was rustic but comfortable. A small kitchen, 1 bedroom, a living area, and a narrow hallway that led to a back door which opened into the forest. There was a large window beside the couch that looked out into the trees. During the day, it was beautiful, but at night, it just looked like a black wall. Josh had warned me that the weather was unpredictable that time of year, and if it stormed, the power might cut out, so I made sure to keep candles and matches nearby. That Friday night, the rain began just after 9 p.m. It came down hard, loud, steady sheets of water slamming against the roof. The wind made the trees sway, and the cabin creaked with each gust. I remember sitting on the couch, a blanket around me, watching lightning flicker across the black sky through the window. That's when the power went out. At first, I didn't think much of it. The lights flickered once, twice, and then everything went black. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, lighting a few candles around the room. But as soon as I did, I heard something outside. It sounded like footsteps, slow, heavy ones, squishing in the mud somewhere near the side of the cabin. I froze. It was raining so hard that I thought maybe it was just water running off the roof, or a branch scraping against the wall. But then I heard it again, closer this time. Step, stop. The sound came from just outside the living room window. I turned the flashlight toward it, but all I saw was the reflection of rain streaking down the glass. I waited, maybe 30 seconds, and then I heard it again, but this time, from the back door. My heart started pounding. The back door was through that narrow hallway, the one that always felt darker than it shouldn't. I told myself it was probably an animal, maybe a deer or a stray dog looking for shelter. Still, I grabbed a small kitchen knife, just in case, and crept down the hall. The rain was hammering the metal roof so hard, I could barely hear my own footsteps. When I reached the back door, I noticed something odd. The door handle, it was wet, not just from condensation, but like someone had grabbed it recently. I aimed my flashlight at the glass panel and nearly dropped it. There was a muddy handprint smeared right across the window. 5 fingers, clearly human. I stood there, completely frozen. I didn't know what to do. Shout? Call for help? There was no signal. And shouting in the middle of nowhere would only make things worse if someone was actually out there. Then, I heard the creak of wood, like weight shifting on the porch. Someone was standing right outside the door. I turned off my flashlight, held my breath, and waited. Thunder cracked across the sky, so loud it rattled the glass. For a few seconds, everything went white with the flash of lightning, and in that flash, I saw a figure standing on the porch. Tall, thin, soaked. But what scared me the most wasn't that they were standing there. It was that their head was tilted, like they were listening. The next few seconds stretched forever. Then came 3 slow knocks on the door. Thump, thump, thump. Each one deeper than the last. I wanted to say something, to yell, "Who's there?" But I couldn't get any words out. I just backed away slowly until I was back in a living room. For maybe 10 minutes, nothing happened. Just the wind and rain. I almost convinced myself that it was just some hiker or hunter caught in the storm. Maybe they were gone now. Then came another knock, but this time, it came from the front door. The cabin only had 2 doors, one at the back and one at the front, beside that big living room window. So whoever, or whatever it was, had walked around the cabin in the storm. The knocks came again, louder this time, and then, through the flash of lightning, I saw a face pressed against the window. Pale skin, eyes that looked too wide, and a grin that didn't move, even when the rain poured over it. I screamed and stumbled backward. My knee hit the table, knocking over a candle, which went out instantly. I rushed into the bedroom and locked the door. I sat on the floor in the dark, shaking, listening as the knocking moved from wall to wall. Slow, deliberate. It wasn't random. It was like whoever was out there was circling the cabin. After what felt like an hour, the sound stopped. The rain was still coming down, but I couldn't hear footsteps anymore. I forced myself to look out the bedroom window. Nothing, just the trees swaying in the wind. I remembered the small generator outside. If I could get it running, maybe the lights or the sound would scare them off. So I waited for the next thunderclap, grabbed the knife again, and bolted through the door toward the side of the cabin. The generator sat under a small awning, half covered in mud. I yanked the pull cord, once, twice, 3 times, and it finally sputtered to life. The lights flickered on inside the cabin, and for a moment I felt relief, until I turned around. In the muddy ground, leading away from the back door, were bare footprints, large ones, too large to be mine, and they didn't go toward the forest, they went around the cabin, again and again, overlapping in circles. That's when the generator sputtered once and died. The lights went out again. And then, clear as day, over the sound of the storm, I heard whispering, low, raspy, almost like someone mumbling words just outside the window. Couldn't make out what they were saying. It was rhythmic, almost like a chant. I ran back inside, slammed the door, and stayed in the corridor until morning. When the sun finally came up, I opened the door and found nothing. No footprints, no signs of anyone, just flattened grass, where something, or someone, had stood for hours. When Josh came up later that day to check on me, I told him everything. He went pale. Then he told he passed with his friends, and said, I wish you would keep us there for it. About 15 years earlier, a man had lived in that same cabin, his uncle's friend. Apparently, he went missing one night during a storm. The police said he'd wandered into the forest and never came back. The only thing they found was a trail of bare footprints around the cabin, going in perfect circles. No one ever figured out what happened to him. I've never been back to that cabin. Josh ended up selling the property a few months later, but sometimes, when it rains heavily at night, I wake up and swear I can hear those same slow knocks. 3 of them. Thump, 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 thump. And every time, I remind myself, I locked the doors that night. I know I did. But something tells me it got in anyway. If you enjoy stories like these, please let me know by leaving a like or subscribing for more creepy tales. You can also leave your stories in the comments section for a chance to be featured in one of the next videos.